When the Browns announced that Dillon Gabriel would start over Shedeur Sanders, it wasn't just the fans who were stunned, it was the locker room too. Myles Garrett, the face of Cleveland's defense, didn't need to say a word. His tightened jaw, the slow clap after the decision, and that cold, silent walk past the press said everything. The moment defined more than just a QB depth chart, it exposed a fracture in team trust. While Sanders had been stacking quiet wins in practice, the front office chose optics over output. Gabriel may have gotten the nod, but Garrett's discontent echoed louder than any press release. The video paints this moment as a critical breach in Cleveland's culture. Veteran players like Garrett don't just command respect, they set the tone. When that tone shifts from belief to frustration, it signals deeper dysfunction. This wasn't just a bad decision, it was a decision that risked unraveling the locker room's unity. And with Sanders continuing to prove himself, the Browns may have ignited a battle they can't afford to lose, from the inside out. Myles Garrett is done playing nice. When the Cleveland Browns quietly benched Shedeur Sanders in favor of Dillon Gabriel, it didn't just raise eyebrows, it detonated a grenade in the middle of the locker room. The move was so baffling, so tone-deaf, that even the usually reserved Garrett couldn't hide his frustration. And when someone like Myles Garrett, team captain, veteran, face of the franchise, starts giving you that look, you know something's seriously off. This wasn't just about who started under center. It was a symbol. A neon sign that screamed, "We still have no idea what we're doing. Let's back up." Shedeur Sanders had been putting in the work. First in, last out. Laser-focused in meetings. Professional to a fault. Teammates noticed. Coaches noticed. Everyone noticed. He was the guy setting the tone in practice. The kind of maturity you want in your quarterback, especially on a team like Cleveland, where chaos is just another day ending in Y. But when it came time to name a starter, the Browns went with Dillon Gabriel. No major announcement. No explanation. Just a quiet little roster update that landed like a sledgehammer. Inside the locker room? Immediate tension. Players stopped making eye contact. The energy dropped. Some were pacing. Others sat in silence. And then there was Myles Garrett, stone-faced, arms crossed, watching the whole thing unfold with that same look he gives offensive linemen right before wrecking their entire afternoon. Garrett didn't need to yell. He didn't need a tweet storm or a press conference. His silence said more than 1,000 hot takes ever could. And it only got louder. See, Dillon Gabriel wasn't the problem. He was the symptom. The real issue was what this decision represented. A franchise once again prioritizing optics and headlines over long-term development and actual performance. Sanders had been outplaying Gabriel in practice. He was sharper, more composed, more consistent. But apparently that wasn't enough. So when the coaching staff handed the reins to Gabriel anyway, it felt personal. Not just to Sanders but to everyone watching the grind day in and day out. Garrett included. You could feel it, this wasn't just a weird coaching call. This was a full-on identity crisis. And Garrett? He wasn't going to play cheerleader for it. His quiet protest started small. A slow clap in the film room when Gabriel's name was called. A sideways glance when a teammate brought up, "scheme fit." Then came the cryptic social media posts. Nothing inflammatory, just enough to get people talking. Enough to let the front office know, "We see what you're doing. And we're not buying it." Outside the team, fans started catching on. The locker room leaks. The subtle digs in pressers. And then came the online storm. Highlight clips of Sanders' footwork in practice, side-by-side comparisons of QB stats, endless threads breaking down why this decision made zero sense. Even the most loyal fans were scratching their heads. Meanwhile, inside the building, the divide kept growing. Veterans started whispering. Younger players didn't know where to stand. Coaching meetings got longer. And the pressure? Absolutely suffocating. And here's the kicker. While all this was brewing, Sanders didn't throw a tantrum. No public statements. No leaks. He just kept grinding. Day after day. Crisp throws. Steady reads. Quiet confidence that spoke louder than any complaint ever could. It started turning heads. Bit by bit, trust started to shift. A few more reps here. A little more responsibility there. And slowly, Sanders began to climb back into the spotlight. Not because of politics, but because of performance. Because he earned it. And through it all, Garrett remained the anchor. He never needed to say, "You're making a mistake." His leadership was in the side eyes, the body language, the unwillingness to co-sign what he saw as mismanagement. His presence was a daily reminder, this team deserves better. These players deserve clarity. And if the front office won't provide it, someone has to hold them accountable. Because here's what this all boils down to: the Browns are at a crossroads. They've got talent. They've got leadership. But they're kneecapping themselves with these bizarre, disconnected decisions. It's like they're more interested in controlling the narrative than building a functional team, prioritizing safe choices over bold ones, going with the headline, not the future. And the locker room knows it. That's why Garrett's response matters so much. Because it wasn't just personal frustration, it was symbolic. A silent, controlled rebellion against a system that keeps repeating the same mistakes. His message wasn't "start Shedeur or else." It was "stop playing games with this team's potential." The ripple effects were impossible to ignore. Every missed throw by Gabriel? A reminder. Every solid practice from Sanders? A raised eyebrow. Every cryptic tweet from Garrett? 1,000 retweets and 100 think pieces. Even the media couldn't keep up. The questions started piling in. Why bench the guy who's clearly showing up? Why ignore the locker room vibe? Why gamble with team chemistry like this? But the Browns stayed silent. No real answers. Just more confusion. More chaos. Which honestly tracks. Because if there's one thing this team has mastered, it's creating drama when none is needed. And this quarterback debacle is textbook Cleveland. Talent wasted in favor of some convoluted plan that makes sense to no one but the people drawing it up. But here's the twist. This story isn't over. Sanders is still rising. His play is forcing the coaches to reconsider. The team is watching. The fans are watching. And Garrett? He's still there. Still leading. Still making it clear that leadership doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be real. And that might be what saves this franchise. Because for once, the drama isn't just noise. It's a warning. A wake-up call. A chance to turn things around before it all collapses. But it's going to take more than sideline stares and cryptic posts. It's going to take someone in that front office finally listening. So here we are. A franchise teetering on the edge. A quarterback room that's become ground zero for trust issues. And a veteran star who's done being polite about it. Garrett's not throwing chairs or calling people out. But he's making himself crystal clear. This team deserves better. And if no one else is going to speak up, he'll do it his way. Quietly. Powerfully. Unapologetically. Now the question is, will the Browns listen before it's too late? If you're watching this thinking, what are they doing over there? You're not alone. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think should be starting, and do you think Garrett's silent protest is enough to shake things up? And if you want more chaos from the world of sports drama, hit subscribe. We've got plenty more where this came from. The Browns can't afford to fumble this again. They've been through this song and dance before. Promising talent, inexplicable decisions, then months of scrambling to undo self-inflicted damage. And every time, it's the locker room that has to hold things together while the front office plays chess with checkerboard pieces. And at the center of that pressure cooker is Myles Garrett, watching, waiting, holding the line. He's not new to dysfunction. He's seen regime changes, quarterback carousels, and media spectacles that could fill their own Netflix docuseries. But this one hit different. Because this time it wasn't just another rebuild, it was a betrayal of effort. Garrett knows what he sees on the field. He sees a quarterback in Shedeur Sanders who's not only putting in the hours, but delivering under pressure. At practice, in scrimmages, in the moments that actually build team chemistry. And then to see that wiped away by what felt like a PR-safe move? That didn't sit right. Not with him. Not with half the locker room. And that silence? That wasn't him being passive. That was him being strategic. Because when Garrett claps slowly after a team meeting, people notice. When he walks past the quarterback room without so much as a glance inside, it means something. When he posts a cryptic, iron sharpens iron message after a loss, it sends shockwaves. He doesn't need to be loud, his reputation does the talking. But that also puts the spotlight squarely on the coaching staff. Because when the guy who is the Browns starts silently pushing back, you're officially on the clock. And yet, they stuck with Gabriel. Week after week, the game plans looked clunky. Drives stalled. Momentum? Non-existent. And you could feel the patience wearing thin, not just from fans but from the players themselves. Post-game interviews got shorter. Sideline shots lingered a little too long on Garrett, arms folded, barely hiding the exhaustion in his eyes. And still, Sanders stayed ready. No leaks to the media. No side eye on the sideline. Just constant work. He kept throwing. Kept studying tape. Kept pulling teammates aside between drills. The man acted like QB1 even when he wasn't on the depth chart. That kind of persistence is contagious. Eventually, it cracked through. Coaches started easing him back in. A few drives here. Red zone packages. 2-minute drills. And every time he touched the field, there was a jolt. Energy, clarity, control. The kind of leadership you feel more than see. And Garrett? You better believe he noticed. One particular moment said it all. After Sanders led a clean, confident scoring drive during a scrimmage, Garrett gave him a look. Just a nod. But in NFL body language, that was a full-blown endorsement. You don't need a team vote when your captain's already spoken. The fans picked up on it too. Social media lit up with play breakdowns. Local analysts started whispering about locker room momentum. Even national pundits began questioning what exactly Cleveland was doing holding Sanders back. And the pressure shifted. Suddenly it was the coaching staff under the microscope. The front office no longer looked in control. They looked like they were scrambling to catch up to a story they'd written themselves into a corner. And here's what's wild. They still haven't publicly addressed it. Not once did they stand at a podium and explain why Sanders, who had clearly been outworking and outperforming his competition, was sidelined in the first place. Not a single quote about locker room unity, performance metrics, or vision for the offense. Just silence. The same kind Garrett had been using as protest, now turned right back on them. It's ironic, isn't it? The most vocal statement anyone's made during this whole debacle wasn't spoken out loud. It was made with body language, film room tension, and sideline energy. And the result? A team that's more divided than ever. Because no matter how talented a roster is, if the decision-making at the top is inconsistent, you're playing from behind. Players feel it. Coaches feel it. And eventually, it bleeds into every facet of your game. That's what makes this more than just a quarterback controversy. This is about trust. Garrett's reaction wasn't just about Sanders, it was about accountability. About demanding that performance matter more than politics. That leadership be earned, not appointed. And when someone like Garrett starts questioning things, openly or not, you don't get to brush it off. You listen. Or you risk losing the locker room completely. What's wild is that Sanders never once asked to be the story. He didn't storm into meetings demanding reps, he let his work speak. And Garrett amplified that with his presence. He vouched for him without saying a word, because that's what real leaders do. They protect talent. They stand for standards. And they push back when the system starts drifting off course. So now the Browns are standing at a fork in the road. One direction leads to clarity. Start Sanders, support your locker room, and lean into the culture that your veterans are trying to build. The other? Double down on questionable decisions, alienate leadership, and drag the entire franchise back into the swamp of dysfunction that's haunted it for years. And make no mistake, the players are watching every move. Because if Garrett's quiet defiance goes ignored, if the message he's been sending gets dismissed, that's not just a football mistake, that's a cultural collapse. You can't run a team where the locker room doesn't believe the guys in charge are watching the same game they are. But here's the good news, it's not too late. Sanders is gaining traction. He's showing up when it counts. And Garrett's message has already reshaped the conversation. The fans are behind it. The players are behind it. The only question is, will management finally get out of their own way? Because the irony of it all? This could have been a success story. A narrative about a rookie quarterback who earned the trust of a veteran leader, rose through adversity, and led a franchise out of the shadows. But instead, it's become a case study in how to self-sabotage momentum. And if the Browns aren't careful, they'll lose more than just games. They'll lose the locker room, the fans, and the leaders trying to keep it all together. That's why Garrett's reaction matters. Because in a franchise used to noise, his silence became the loudest protest. A protest against wasted talent. A protest against poor leadership. And a protest against yet another season slipping through their fingers for no good reason. You don't get many players like Myles Garrett. Guys who care enough to push back. Guys who've earned the right to call out the dysfunction without saying a word. And when you do, you listen. So if you're still wondering why this QB decision caused such a storm, now you know. It wasn't just about who throws the football. It was about who this team is choosing to be. And if Garrett's quiet rebellion is any sign of where this thing's heading, the Browns better make their next move count. Or they're going to learn the hard way what happens when your leaders stop believing in the system. The uncomfortable truth? This entire situation never had to reach boiling point. If Cleveland had just trusted what they were seeing, not what they hoped would work or what looked safe on a depth chart, but the actual day-to-day reality of who was earning it, this wouldn't be a controversy. It'd be a slow-burning success story. A franchise finally starting to turn the page with a veteran leader and a rising QB in sync. But instead they chose confusion. They chose optics. And now they're stuck in a story of their own making. That's the weight Garrett's carrying right now. He knows what this team could be. You think he doesn't feel it when he watches Sanders deliver a dime in practice, only to see him sidelined again come game day? You think he doesn't hear the locker room whispers, the side conversations, the low-level frustration boiling just under the surface? He hears it all. He feels it all. That's why he's reacting. Because it's not just about losing games. It's about losing trust. And the Browns? They're running out of goodwill. Not from the fans, they've been through it all. But from within. From the people inside that locker room who want to believe that hard work, consistency, and leadership still mean something in this league. And let's be clear, Garrett isn't the kind of guy who stirs the pot just to make noise. He's not posting memes or throwing coaches under the bus. He's deliberate. He's measured. So when he starts signaling discontent, it's not drama. It's a warning. And if you zoom out, the pattern is painfully familiar. The Browns have been trapped in this loop for years. Bring in the talent, sell the hope, make the splashy move, then sabotage themselves with internal chaos and bizarre decision-making. It's a tragic cycle. And if you listen closely, you can hear the rumblings of it starting again. The benching of Sanders was just the latest spark. But the fuel? That's years of inconsistent messaging. Of saying we're building for the future, while making moves that reek of short-term desperation. Of having stars on the roster and still acting like a team that doesn't know what it wants to be. And Myles Garrett is over it. He's been loyal. He's been patient. He's played through injuries, through rebuilds, through every flavor of quarterback experiment this franchise has thrown at the wall. But now, when the path forward is actually clear, when you've got young talent, a leader in waiting, and a locker room ready to rally, you still pull the emergency lever and create a problem that didn't need to exist? It's exhausting. You don't need insider access to see that Garrett's faith is being tested. Not in his teammates, but in the people making the calls upstairs. And here's where it gets dangerous. Because once you lose the locker room's belief in the vision, it's over. Doesn't matter how talented your roster is. Doesn't matter what plays you draw up. If the players no longer believe their performance translates into opportunity, you've already lost the season. And that is what Garrett's silence has been trying to say this whole time. He's not mad at Gabriel. He's not undermining the team. He's standing up for what's real. For what's earned. And for every player in that locker room who's watching to see if this organization actually rewards the grind. Because this is bigger than just Sanders versus Gabriel. This is about credibility. And the front office is dangerously close to losing it. You could feel it in the post-game moments. The half-hearted high fives. The way players would glance over when Sanders made a good play, like they were waiting to see if it would actually change anything. That constant hesitation, that second-guessing, it kills chemistry. And it all comes from leadership that doesn't know how to commit. But Sanders? He's just kept playing. Cool under pressure. Locked in. A guy who could easily go the diva route, but hasn't. That quiet professionalism? It's winning people over. And Garrett's subtle backing has only accelerated it. That's what makes this situation so painfully clear. The right answer is already on the field. The team knows it. The fans know it. Garrett definitely knows it. All that's left is for the front office to catch up before it's too late. But that's the scary part, there's no guarantee they will. We've seen this movie before. Where the obvious choice is right in front of them and they still somehow zig when they should zag. Where pride or internal politics keep them from making the call everyone else already knows is right. And it's frustrating because this could be the beginning of something. Shedeur Sanders, supported by veteran leadership, steadily stepping into a leadership role. Myles Garrett anchoring the defense, holding the line, making sure the standard never drops. A young core starting to gel. A fan base ready to rally behind something real for once. It's right there. But only if they make the right choice now. Not after another 3-game losing streak. Not after the media storms in with the "Why isn't Sanders starting?" headlines. Not after another Garrett side-eye goes viral. No. Because Garrett won't say it outright, but the clock is ticking. You only get so many years with a player like him. A leader. A cornerstone. And if this franchise keeps wasting them on indecision and dysfunction, they're going to look up one day and realize the window slammed shut while they were still arguing about who gets the clipboard. And the damage isn't just internal. Fans are fed up too. The whispers have turned into full-blown rants on talk shows, in forums, in group chats across Cleveland. People are tired of watching this team sabotage itself. But the worst part? They're used to it now. That's how deep the wound goes. And still, there's a chance to change the narrative. Start Shedeur Sanders. Make the shift. Own the mistake, fix it, and give the locker room a reason to believe again. You don't even need a press conference. Just make the move and let the results speak for themselves. Let Garrett see that his leadership matters. Let the players know that performance will always outweigh politics. Because if you don't, the fallout is going to be brutal. We're not just talking about losing games. We're talking about losing the intangible things: trust, momentum, belief. And once those things are gone, you don't just get them back with a new depth chart. You earn them. And right now, the Browns are running out of people willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. So here's the hard truth. This QB decision exposed more than just a difference in play styles. It exposed cracks in the culture, fault lines in leadership, and the very real possibility that the people calling the shots aren't hearing the voices that matter most. But it's not too late to fix it. The pieces are already in place. The leaders are already in the building. And the team is desperately ready for something solid to rally behind. So let this be the turning point. Give Sanders the ball. Let Garrett lead. And for once, don't make the Browns the story for all the wrong reasons. Because if this team falls apart now, it won't be because they didn't have the talent. It'll be because they refused to listen to the voices that actually knew what they were talking about. And if you're watching this, wondering how many times this franchise can trip over itself before learning, you're not alone. Drop a comment. Do you think they'll finally get it right? Or are we watching another meltdown in slow motion? Hit subscribe if you're here for the ride, because if there's one thing the Browns will always deliver, it's drama. And we'll be here breaking down every twist.